Computers have their limits. Like most things in the world, limitations exist. With the case of computers that we use today, which are based off silicon chips, this includes smartphones, game consoles, desktop computers, laptops, and really any system that runs off silicon microprocessors. There are limitations on how powerful these systems have become. Since the 70s and even before then, we have seen a massive growth in the number of transistors that we can cram into computers. We've seen die shrinks and all kinds of innovative technologies that have increased the power of computers, however kept their overall power consumption constant. We've seen growth in computer technology, in computing power, that has been absolutely enormous. Every few years, computers basically double in power. We are seeing, for example here, processors become more and more advanced. If you look at NVIDIA's website, they have newer and better graphics cards which are becoming progressively more advanced over the years. You are seeing humongous leaps in technology. However, all of this must come to an end. Moore's law must come to a conclusion. And I'm going to explain why in this video. Moore's law, if you simplify it, basically is this. Moore, or I should say I believe it is Gordon Moore, a businessman at Intel, said that every couple of years, maybe every year or so, or 2 years, the power of computer processors would double. Now, this is, to a degree true. You are seeing, growth in computer microprocessors. Not necessarily doubling, but you're seeing, you're definitely seeing growth in the number of transistors, and you're definitely seeing growth in the number of cores inside of computer microprocessors. Now, to put it simply here, this growth was made possible by die shrinks. Now, what a die shrink is here is where you take your transistors from your chip, let's say the cell broadband engine, and let's say you have a die size of 85 nanometers. Now let's assume that this microprocessor draws 100 watts of energy and produces an absolute ton of heat. Thing is here, if you want to cool high wattage CPUs, you need big cooling systems like liquid coolers, big heat sinks, and all of that. And you also use a lot of power. And to deliver that power, you need a lot of circuitry to, of course, deliver the power. Now the thing is here, if you look at how the PlayStation 3 has become smaller, this is due to the fact that we've had this thing called, die shrinking. And even if you look at the PlayStation 2, you can see that the system, over a couple of years became progressively smaller, right up until the point where it was a mere fraction of the size of the original release console. Basically here, in computer microprocessor processor manufacturing here, if you want more power, you have two options. You can increase your wattage and your power consumption while keeping the same die size, or you can keep the same wattage and then go ahead and die shrink the processor down from, say, 85 nanometers to 45 nanometers. So you can put in more transistors in a smaller chip and use less power. An example of this would be, your average i7s. Your i7 microprocessor uses something in the neighborhood of 70 to about 95 watts. And you've seen these chips go through die shrinks while still remaining at a relatively constant power consumption, all while they become more and more powerful. So because of die shrinks, you have microprocessors that are more powerful but use less power. Now, the thing is here, most people will say to me, what the hell is the point of worrying about power consumption? Well, it's a pretty simple matter. If you pump a lot of energy into a microprocessor, you're going to get energy out of that, which is in the form of heat. Now, the thing is here, die shrinks are limited. So the problem you'll run into here is that if you want more computing power, you'll need to increase your wattage. And when you increase your wattage, you increase your thermal output. And there comes a point where you'll generate so much heat that your liquid coolers wouldn't be able to cool the system. There's also going to be a point where you'll need to just use liquid nitrogen to cool your computers, and this becomes impractical because it would likely take thousands of watts to get the power you want out of the CPU, and it would take many more thousands of watts to actually cool the CPU. So this is where, computers become impractical. Die shrinks are limited because if you put transistors too close together, you get quantum tunneling. And there really is no creditable debate on this whole subject. Die shrinks are limited. Now you may be asking yourself, why the hell should I care about any of this garbage? Why can I not just go off and play Grand Theft Auto 5 or whatever? Well, I'll give you an answer right here, right now, and it's really pretty simple. Let's say, for example, here that the PlayStation 5 is going to be released in 6 years' time, and that the PlayStation 6 will be released after, of course, the PlayStation 5's lifetime. Think about this here for a sec. Think about this, pretty carefully here. The PlayStation 5 has a 5 nanometer microprocessor. This is basically where you're reaching your limits. And it draws in a total of about 80 watts of electrical energy. It's a 16 core that has something in the neighborhood of probably something in the neighborhood of about 3 billion transistors, and I might be a bit off here. Let's say it has something in the neighborhood of 3 billion transistors, and that's just the limit. Now, the thing is here, if Sony wanted to release the PlayStation 6, and if Rockstar wanted to make a better and more advanced version of GTA 6 or 7, then they would need to raise the overall power that the system consumes so that the microprocessor can run at higher clock speeds and provide higher performance. But the big problem here is this. Once you hit this brick wall, right, you can do optimizations to microprocessors to make them run faster, but, it has its limits. You can only squeeze so much power out of that processor, and there will come a point, pretty quickly where you cannot actually squeeze more power out of those processors without raising your thermal and your thermal output and your energy input. There'll come a point very quickly where you can't actually cool the thing when you keep dialing up the clock speed. And once a microprocessor reaches a certain point, and when it comes to thermal output, it will just melt itself. Now, really here, the problem that I see is that, the only way when you hit, say, 5 nanometers where you can't do die shrinks, you can't get more power out of computers without putting in more electrical energy. And once you hit that point, you're basically finished. And that's going to mean that, once you reach a certain point with, say, the iPhones and the Android systems, you can't actually make those phones more powerful without making them bigger and more power hungry. And this is going to cause a whole lot of problems for big companies and industry who use high-performance computing technology to do tasks. You're going to have a very hard time actually continuing to see growth in computer power without seeing a massive growth in, power consumption. And you're going to see massive increases in thermal output, and there's just no way around that. Now, the future, I'm not particularly sure which type of computers will become the successor to the silicon chip. I have questions of whether or not it will be the quantum computer or possibly some variants of silicon chips, possibly something in the likes of perhaps, say, light-based computers or whatever. I'm betting on quantum computers, as they would probably be something that would be very helpful to society, and they would allow for AI to exist that would far exceed anything we have today. And to think about this here, if you have a computer that has billions of the times the power of every single computer on Earth, like a quantum computer for example, it could theoretically speaking have a level of intelligence that would crush just about every single human being on Earth. But enough of my rambling, enough of my crap, and I just really want to summarize this entire video by saying here that the computers that we use today, and the computers we'll use tomorrow, and all the silicon chip stuff is going to come to an end. There's not particularly a lot more I can say about this issue other than that. And I think this might be an educational sort of product to inform people of this real problem that we're going to see down the line. And I do think that companies like Intel, AMD, and IBM will indeed put newer technologies onto the market to replace silicon chips, and I hope that that does happen. But there's also another subject I want to go into related to computer intelligence later on that may or may not be interesting. Anyways guys, I'm going to end this video here. I have actually done a piece of writing on this subject which you can read if you like. If not, then that's fine with me, but I'm just see it fit to share my opinions and perspectives on the future of computers, and to point out some of the problems that people might face down the line. I encourage you to share this video with others and discuss it with friends, family, or even your teachers if you attend a school or an institute that focuses heavily on technology. I might be wrong about some of the things I say in this video, and I was wrong about probably something about the whole Missouri case, about Ferguson, so I'd honestly, I am open to criticism. You're welcome to comment below. I'm not going to close off my comment section if you disagree with me or dox you. So yeah, thanks for watching this video guys, that's all, see ya.